Hi everyone, I'm Celeste.
And I'm Danielle, and we are the co-founder of the Somatica Institute of Sex and Relationship Coaching. Somatica is an experiential relational method where the coach and the client practice relationship, being mutually vulnerable. It is effective, really effective in helping people reduce shame, accept and love themselves, understand their unique needs and desires, and learn how to communicate it lovingly. Somatica trainings and coaching help people become more resilient around triggers and disappointment, which is super important, and learn how to connect deeply in the face of differences, since we all are very different, and increase love and pleasure in our lives and your lives and everyone else's lives, because it is contagious in a good way.
I'm really excited today to talk about attachment and also individuation, which we'll talk about more. But one of the reasons I'm really excited about it is because it's been such a key part of my journey. I had attachment trauma, I have attachment trauma, and it still impacts me, but going through transformation around attachment has completely changed my life. So I guess I want to start a little bit to talk about kind of the images out there and the focus out there, which is very much on attachment. And I think even if you think about like all of the posts you see on Facebook or therapy, if you look at romantic movies, I think there's such a focus on like, we need to have secure attachment relationship. It's so important to have secure attachment and relationship. And we agree, it is really essential to feel safe and like you can trust your partner and like you can really sink into the sense of this person is here with me, and at least for the time being, it seems like they're not going anywhere. I say that because I think we have a lot of fantasies about forever that actually sometimes get in the way of feeling the sense of secure attachment in the present moment. So that's one piece of it. But I think what really also gets left out is the need, the concurrent need, simultaneous need for individuation, for a sense of being yourself and being true to yourself. And a lot of times I think we look at those as like some sort of like one is better than the other, or, you know, we should focus on one more than the other, or it's like attachment is the most important thing, or being an individual and independent is the most important thing. And we really think of them absolutely as two sides of the same coin. So if you want to feel really, in order to feel really attached to someone, you actually need to be able to be yourself in the relationship. And in order to really feel safe enough to be yourself in the relationship, you need a sense of secure attachment. And when we work with couples, we're always working with that delicate balance between attachment and individuation. And it's a constantly shifting terrain. I think that's the part that we humans are most uncomfortable with, like the uncertainty of the fact that people are going to change and they're going to want something, and maybe they didn't want it all along, or maybe they did want it all along and they didn't tell you because they were scared, and now they're like going to get raked over the coals because they're telling you now, and why didn't they tell you when you married them, or something like that. And that's just not how humans work. Like, we have fears, we have resiliencies, and sometimes we're able to speak up for ourselves about who we are and what we want, and sometimes we aren't. And so we have to continue to be able to communicate around our attachment needs and our needs for individuality and selfhood.
I hear from so many of my couples like real rage, frustration, disappointment around their partners changing course in what they promised them at the beginning of the relationship. And they bring this, this couple that they brought, well, a few of them, they brought this idea of like, but she promised me at the beginning, or he promised me at the beginning. And that can be about anything. It can be about whether we're going to have children, not have children. At the beginning, he said he wanted 4 children. Now he only wants 1. You know, well, he tried it, or vice versa. Or at the beginning, they said that I'm everything, and now they want to be polyamorous. So there's so many things that people don't know until they do, or until they grow. And this creates a lot of stress in relationships and brings lots of people into our offices and Somatica coaches' offices as well.
Yeah, I think a lot of times we see people in what we kind of think of as an attachment individuation battle. where one person is voting much more for attachment and the other person seems to be voting much more for individuality or selfhood. And we always try to remember that underneath that battle are two people who need both. They both need to feel like they're safe in the relationship and that their partner really is there and wants to be with them and is choosing them and signing up for them, right? Those are all attachment needs. And we really want to help people feel like it's okay to be who they are and be true to themselves and ask for what they want, especially this space of being able to say what you want. I think I'm always working with couples to kind of separate out asking for what you want and like being guaranteed you're going to get what you want. Because I think there's this safety that comes from just being able to say, hey, I want this. I don't know if you can handle that or not, but this would feel really, really good to me. And that a lot of times there isn't even a safe space to say that, because it's like, well, if you want that, then that means we're so different and we can't be together. And I've seen people stay together across massive differences just by being able to talk openly and honestly about who they are and what they want, in the safety of knowing this person wants me to be who I am, and they want to be with me, and I want them to be who they are, and I want to be with them. And with that combination is an extraordinarily powerful and sustainable combination in relationship.
We continue talking about this in our webinar as well as in our couples training, but I want to say, so what does it have to do? We hear a lot about attachment styles, and we blame attachment styles in everything that going bad in relationships. So I want us to talk a little bit about what we said and what it has to do with attachment styles. So maybe we'll define attachment a little bit, attachment styles before, so because we feel that we have a little bit of a unique way of looking at it. It's not represented out there in the same way.
Yeah, so there's a few different attachment styles that basically an attachment style was studied with early childhood, with young children, to kind of see how they reacted in moments of relationship distress, where there was some sort of stress. Did they cling to their parent? Did they push their parent away and not even try to approach them? Or did they kind of go back and forth, never really being able to settle? Or did they feel kind of relaxed and were able to kind of roam around and do their own thing? And so as they looked at young children's experiences, they started to realize that sort of these attachment styles that we have persist over time in our lifetime. But we really do think of attachment styles as tendencies and not fixed entities. For example, if you have ambivalent attachment, and ambivalent attachment, that's what I have. Also, Stan Tatkin calls it the wave, which I think is a good name for it. You might be very frightened that your partner's going to leave, and you might cling, and you want to talk everything out before you go to bed, and you want to work through things, and then you might have a partner who has more of an avoidant style, where they're which Stan Tatkin calls the island, where they're like, I just need some space right now, and I need to be by myself and think about this and kind of regroup. And you might have a tendency towards one of those styles and kind of know yourself to be like that in a lot of your relationships. But if you end up with somebody who's like way further along on the spectrum than you might start to feel yourself on the other side of that spectrum. Like if you're usually the one that chases, but you have a super duper chaser that you're dating, you might start to be like, whoa, I need a little bit of space. Or if you are pretty avoidant, but then somebody's like, I want to see you every 2 weeks and not like have a lot of contact in between, you might suddenly be like, whoa, where are you? I need more time and attention. And so we think of it much more as like a spectrum that you can move along. And particularly as secure attachment as more of a state than a identity, or than a tendency. It's like the state of secure attachment is something that people can get into, but I don't think that people are necessarily securely attached. I've seen people who are pretty balanced end up in a relationship that really threw them super duper out of whack. So that's not, you might have more security in general, but it doesn't mean that it's a fixed state.
Which I think is really, really important to really get what we're saying here, because there's a lot of shame out there and a lot of push feeling like, oh, we need, like, something's wrong with me because I'm not securely attached. And because it being perceived as a style of attachment, being secured attached. And again, I'm repeating it because what we're saying is that you're going to have your tendencies, and everyone have tendencies. I don't know anyone, like the most a person who grew up in the most loving family and got the most love ever, also, and no criticism, they still might feel trigger, or they will have a tendency to go to fall onto when things are not necessarily going to be stable in their relationships. And it can be with children, it can be with partners, it can be with co-workers as well. So those tendencies going to show up in times of conflict and not necessarily on a daily basis.
And I think it is so empowering to be able to talk openly in your relationship about your tendencies in that particular relationship, to say like, wow, I notice I'm kind of showing up as the more ambivalent one in this relationship. I feel more anxious about whether you're going to stay or not. And the other person, yeah, I notice that like my tendency when we get into conflict is to pull away a little bit and not judge those. I think a lot of times it's like people who are more ambivalently attached like myself get called like needy or clingy, and people who are more avoidantly attached get, it's like, oh, you're emotionally unavailable or commitment phobic or something like that. We like toss these names across the fence at each other, like to try to shame the other person out of being who they are. And we have found that to be a very ineffective method if you want more secure attachment in your relationship.
And you know what creates secure attachment? If you're able to talk about those differences and feel love and empathy and understanding, and you don't shame each other for having those tendencies, and instead you start to see like, oh, you did this because you have this worry that I'm going to leave you, but I'm here to stay, or I'm here to do that. Yeah, I want that too, but I want to do this adventure, but that doesn't mean that I'm going away forever. Or like being able to talk about those differences is the thing that creates secure attachment.
Absolutely. And reassuring on both sides, like Danielle said, reassuring that it's okay to be who you are, reassuring I'm here. Right. So those are really key. And then also noticing if you're more somebody who's voting for attachment in the relationship, or more somebody who's voting for individuation in relationship. Because a lot of times there is this person who's like, but we really need to focus on the relationship and our love and, like our closeness, and let's have date nights and right. And the other person's going, I think we need a little more time apart. I'm really wanting to follow up on my particular dreams and goals. And, I think we should have like more time, and it becomes this fight, as opposed to like, oh yeah, we need those things. Like, I need to be who I am, you need to be who you are, and we both need each other's support in that.
And if you grew up in a guilting family, and you might have an avoidant attachment, you might still say like, do you want to go somewhere together? And inside you're just like, I just want to go by myself, like, where do I go? And I can't do it because I feel so guilty because we're supposed to spend time together. And as you start to get to know each other, you will, and yourself, you'll be able to speak to those and give each other or support each other's need for freedom, as well as connection, even if they're guilt-ridden. Yeah.
And I do think at the beginning of relationship, a lot of times there is this kind of like merging that happens, because you kind of feel uncertain and you want to see that person or have contact with them a lot, and you kind of want to try to do everything that they want to do. There can be this time where both people are moving a lot more in that direction, and then usually one person starts to sort of need more space and time earlier than the other. Every once in a while it happens at the same time, but I think that's actually much more rare. And then the other person might go, oh no, they're leaving, or they're not as interested, or it's scary. And the other person's like, no, everything's fine. I just need a little bit more time with my friends. I've spent a lot of time with you. And that's how we start to get into that vortex. And sometimes that vortex doesn't happen right away. It can happen much later on in the relationship. Like it feels like everything's stable and secure, and then suddenly it's like, I want to get a job that requires me to be, out of the city for 3 days a week. And then the other person's like, when the attachment hasn't felt threatened at all in the relationship. And then suddenly something significant happens that the person realizes, oh, maybe we're not on the same page here in terms of how much time we want to spend together. And then fear happens. And those moments are when our tendencies to cling or avoid can come out most strongly. And I say cling very lovingly, like I'm the ambivalent, I'm the clinger. So I'm not saying that in a judgmental way. I use a lot of those words to kind of de-shamify them so that we can just know who we are and accept who we are. One person asks, who are you quoting with the wave and the island? That's Stan Tatkin. And he's written books on attachment, which are decent, but I will say that in many books on attachment, avoidance get very vilified. So, it's like, avoid those evil avoidants before they avoid you, kind of thing. And as somebody who is a lover of all, I don't know. I think I love avoidance, or at least most people are more avoidant than me. So I have, I have no choice but to date them. And I've learned that, for me, there's something very powerful in being with someone who's kind of like maybe just a little bit more closed, and I get to feel like, oh, they open to me, it makes me feel special, and that's like a really nice feeling. And if I can not be too, like controlling of them, they'll actually come towards me. But it's taken me a long time to calm down the scared part of me enough to let, to give space. And that's what we always need to work on. I love it. Somebody says, the 3 days a week out of town would only bother. They ended up only wanting sex 1 or 2 days a week because they needed a day on either side to reorient. So, yeah. For some people, the sex is something that reassures the security in the relationship a lot. And for some people, sex is the place where they really get to feel accepted as the individual they are.
Yeah, so we want to talk a little bit about how to create this, how to get to a better attachment individuation balance, because this is what people want to know and many times struggle with. So I think the first step is de-shamify, as we said earlier, de-shamify the differences and de-shamify who people's needs and people's desires and people's differences, because we all grew up in different households and have different needs at different times. This experience of de-shamifying also creates safety to be yourself and safety to show up with your needs. And that can start the conversation between people about their differences and about what is it that motivates them and how they need things in different times in different ways. I find it super fascinating I'm married for 26 years, and like what's super fascinating for me is like how every time my husband and I will learn more and more about each other and about our emotional needs and about our defensiveness and about like what we want, and and I feel this conversation deepens so much our intimacy and our ability to be much more loving and takes things in a much more relaxed way and not be triggered for every sentence that the other person says, because we talk about it. Doesn't mean we're not triggered often, but still, I want to de-shamify this thing because people get triggered often no matter how many conversations they do. But those things like just go deep, but having those conversations makes the trigger go away so much faster and create so much more ease in the relationship, so much more intimacy and love.
Yeah, I love what you're saying, Danielle, too, because I feel like safety is so important. And one of the things that you can do to create more balance in the attachment individuation process, and also to really help, I think, on the secure attachment side, is to do some work on safety. And safety really means being able to empathize with your partner about the things that make them the most insecure, and then creating reassurances. So reassurance practices can be really different for different people. For some people, reassurance is all about like hugging or touching or making love or fucking. And for some people, reassurance practices have a lot to do with words. Like, I know for myself, I do need a lot of touch, but my biggest reassurances come when somebody says to me, like, you're very important to me, you're very special to me, I love you, you know, all of those things. I don't think I could hear those enough times. Doesn't mean I'm expecting to hear them every minute, but you know, every minute would be fine. So, um, the more sort of verbal reassurance I get, and for other people, reassurances can be much more physical. How you know that you're feeling more securely attached is really a sensation or a state in your body and in your mind and in your emotions. So the state of secure attachment, the state of safety, is a feeling of like calmness and relaxedness in your belly. The thoughts in your head are like, this person is here with me, they care about me, they're not going anywhere, they listen to me, they try to understand me, right? Like, if those are ways that you know. And emotionally, it just feels like warmth or love or tenderness, vulnerability, sweetness. All of those things are things where you know, like, you're gauging, oh, I'm in a good, relaxed attachment state. And if you're getting pulled out of that, you know, you might have like rushing thoughts. They don't want to be with me. They don't care about me, or heart beating fast, or like tightness in your belly. And that's something that you want to just keep a gauge on in yourself, because your partner may or may not be able to read those things in you. Some people are much more sensitive and they like see a slight change in you. They're like, are you okay? Is everything okay? And other people, it's like, boom, if you didn't tell them what was going on inside of you, they would never know and never ask. And there's no reason to judge someone for that. They might be able to increase those skills, but also it's your responsibility to say, hey, I'm starting to feel a little shaky in the foundation right now, or I'm getting anxious, or I'm getting nervous. What you said just triggered me. To be able to bring up those moments so you can establish a safety practice. And now we're talking about the importance of establishing safety practices with your partner to deepen that state, that sense of attachment in your body.
I do want to represent the avoidance, who their experience of feeling, you know, like overwhelmed by the system is usually an experience of that attachment. Their attachment needs are imbalanced, is the feeling of overwhelmed, they need space, they can't find themselves, they feel like they need to hide in some corner, a desire to go inwards and really shut the world out. They're not mean people. They're really, many of them are wonderful, wonderful people on both sides of the attachment, you know. Yes, but for the ambivalent attached, or many times it's being referred to as anxiously attached, but we think that both ambivalent and avoidant have anxiety in those experiences. So that's what we refer to ambivalently attached and avoidant attachment. Both those people, both the people in the situation have stress inside, and being able to talk about those differences creates a lot of safety. And for the avoidant to feel like they are getting their attachment needs met is feeling like they can breathe deeper. There's more room for them to be themselves. They get to ask for what they want. They get to express themselves and not only feel like they're constantly holding and trying to take care of the other person, which is a lot of the avoidant experience.
So this is a great question. And I think, you know, when we teach our couples training, when we do work with couples, and when we teach people how to do work with couples, a lot of what we teach people is how to be able to listen in moments of conflict, because absolutely those are the hardest times to relax your nervous system, to be open to what the other person is saying, because what the other person is saying, you're probably just scanning for the worst case scenario, that they're either telling you like they're halfway out the door, or they're telling you it's not okay to be yourself. And, you know, that's what is volleying back and forth. And I think when I'm helping people have better communication, I'm always gauging, and I teach people to gauge their own triggers, because you can't listen to someone else if you are at like a 6 on the trigger Richter scale. You know, your head is starting to explode. There's no relaxed openness to what the other person is saying. You're just like fear, 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 fear. And so I try to help people stay at very low levels of trigger, which means these conversations often need to go much slower than we hope they would, but going slower is actually quite a bit more efficient. So if we're going for efficiency, we might not need to go for speed in these situations. We have to go for low trigger, and to really say, like, if some of your partner starts talking about something and you can feel it going up your body, you have to go, ooh, okay, hold on, time out. I just got really triggered by what you said. Let me take a deep breath. Let's slow this down a little bit. I might need a little reassurance before I can hear that again and actually digest it, right? Like, those are the things that you need to relax. And also, somebody says more about the anxiety underlying ambivalence. The anxiety underlying ambivalence is usually abandonment anxiety, a fear that somebody's going to leave or not want you.
Yes, and the anxiety that underlies the avoidant is the feeling of being judged and criticized for being you and needing your space.
So another really helpful tool in attaining that better attachment individuation balance, because safety is more towards the attachment side, although avoidants need to feel safe to be themselves, but that's kind of what the next step is to really support each other's selfhood. I I have to remind couples a lot of something that they actually know deep down inside, which is that they want their partner to be who they are. In moments of distress, it's possible to forget that you want your partner to be who you are. You might think, no, I'd rather them be someone else than they are, as long as I feel safe. So it's really important to come back over and over again to, like, wait a minute, this person is telling me about something about themselves and who they are. And actually, I love them, so I want them to be who they are. If we can come from that place, then we might be way less likely to judge what the other person wants or needs or feels. And we can also gauge, like, our capacity for handling that. Instead of saying, like, what you want is bad, you can go, oh, what you want is beautiful and amazing. If you do that, my nervous system might get so out of whack, I can't even go to work in the morning. So let's talk about that a little bit. But that's really, really different than saying, like, what's wrong with you for wanting that? And, sort of like trying to shame people out of being themselves. So how do we, like, make space for somebody to say who they are and say what would help them most be true to who they are, and then say, like, what can I handle in the face of that? It really gets you out of the state of right and wrong and what's the best way to be in relationship and all of those kinds of things, and gets you to, like, okay, here you and me are in front of each other. We love each other. We both are trying to do this very delicate balance that's challenging. Let's see if we can take care of both the attachment needs and the selfhood needs at the same time without judging the other person.
Many times as sex coaches, many times we see those differences show up in the bedroom, of course. A lot of it is not only around how we want to have sex, but a lot of it is how much sex we want to have. We hear it a lot from couples when many times one person want to have more sex than the other, and balancing those can be ridden with shame and shaming and accusation and why can't you do your duty to me? Or, there's a lot of terminologies around that people kind of force the other person to do something for them. But when we start talking about it in coaching, when I start talking with couples about it, many times I try to help them see whether they really want to have sex with their partner, if their partner is really not interested, and really, like, helping them get to that feeling of, oh wow, I don't want to have forced sex. I don't want to have like duty sex. I want to have a partner who desires me and want to have sex with me. So that really helps kind of open people towards looking and empathizing with the other person and starting to see how can they navigate those differences.
Yeah, and I think we've talked about it a few different ways, but I think it really bears repeating that making, and we think of this as kind of the meta conversation, making these topics, what is your attachment style? What kind of like how much do you feel like you are more on the individuation or more on the attachment side of the spectrum in this relationship? Actually having those kinds of meta conversations about your relationship can really help you, again, as long as you're doing it with the sense inside of your body, like there's nothing wrong with being ambivalently attached. There's nothing wrong with being avoidantly attached. But we need to be able to make space for what each person needs. And I think that's a really big piece, is to just like be able to talk openly about these topics, as opposed to feeling like, I think if you forget that it's things that these things happen to everybody, like at some point in a relationship, these different pieces of ourselves get triggered, and you start just making about you and the person sitting across from you, it feels very personal and personally rejecting or personally shaming. But if you start to look at, oh, these are our tendencies, and this is more of the big picture of how relationships work, and relationships aren't always easy, and we do need to talk about these differences, and we need to try to talk about them as lovingly as possible, and we're going to mess that up all the time because we get triggered and scared. If we have that sort of overall sense of like, this is a way to talk about relationships that takes it out of being so you and me, and a little bit more like, we're in this pattern. This is a normal pattern that people get in all the time. Let's talk through it and start to look at ourselves in it with loving tenderness, with a lot of gentleness, and look at our partners in it with a lot of tenderness and gentleness, and make that part of the actual conversation that you're having about these topics, instead of just talking about the topics. I think depersonalizing, this is my new mantra. What I say all the time now is, the only thing you should take personally is love. Everything else is actually not really about you. So that's a great Buddhist practice. It's not easy. Yeah.
Because we learn from every movie, everything that we see in the media and in any modeling that we get feels so personal, and people that's how they create conflict in romantic comedies and in movies, by making those things personal, by taking it personally. So the antidote is actually trusting in the goodness of your partner. Of course, not if you're in an abusive relationship. We're not covering this here, but trusting the goodness and the kindness of your partner, and that they actually knowing that you want the best for each other, and seeing the difference between what is best for you and what is best for them.
Yes, benefit of the doubt. This is a great question. How does the ambivalent experience a sense of security when the avoidant says that she is not sure about being together in the future? I have something to tell you all. You're not going to like this. No one is sure of being together in the future. I know that's a really, and when I say that, I don't mean that they might not want to be attached to you forever, but nobody knows exactly who they are going to be in the future. So even if you feel like you can say that 100% true, I don't think we can sign up for who we're going to be 10 years from now or 15 years from now based on who we are in our lives. I think what you can create, and the less you sort of like focus on that and try to squeeze a promise out of someone, especially out of someone who needs a lot of freedom or doesn't feel like they want to be like trapped or is scared about that, I think that you can focus on the depth of security now and really start to try to get it as a sensation in your relationship, in your body, in the present moment, and to start to walk through each moment noticing, oh, what would help me calm my what would help me feel more secure right now? For example, I love the word forever in bed. Like, I love when people say, I could just hold you forever, or I want to fuck you forever. And I always think, That's a beautiful sentiment. And I'm going to take that to mean they love me so much. But I'm not going to take that to mean they've made some kind of promise to me that they're going to be the same forever. They're going to always know what they want, and it will always be me. And I can know that right now.
Maybe we'll talk a little bit about the couples training, and then we'll answer all of your questions. We really, really, really want to answer all your questions. So keep them coming, and we'll talk a little bit about our couples training and what we're going to offer. So we are excited to announce that we moved our couples training online. That means that it is available for everyone anywhere in the world, which is totally fascinating and cool. We also, the couples training is both for practitioners who want to enhance their ability, maybe learn from scratch how to work with couples, as well as enhance their tools of working with couples, especially around intimacy and sexuality. And it is also for couples who want to go through this process of the way we teach in Somatica, the whole roadmap of how to work through differences, how to understand your attachment style, how to talk about it, how to understand what turns you on and be able to have communication around your turn-ons and work with your differences. So in the training, people are gonna work with couples. If you're a practitioner or with other in couples, you can get the benefit of seeing what it feels like to actually see someone else playing your partner and how much projection you do. I think this is the coolest thing in the training to see that on top. The most like surprising thing to see how your partner is your partner and you are you with whoever you put in front of you. And it's an amazing opportunity to really for practitioners to work with real couples and through this very, very systematic process and roadmap that we are offering. And
yeah, we get such good feedback for the couples training from couples because it's like this, really a lot jam-packed into one or into two modules. And what they find is that they just have tremendous tools. There's a lot of transformation in that, in those modules themselves, but then they have all of these tools that they're continuing to use, right, throughout their relationship. And because they've practiced them, they're able to start to take them out in the world. And it's really fun because like you get to have all of these different practitioners walking you through it. And also you're learning how to be a practitioner. So you kind of get the behind the scenes and you don't have to wait for somebody to help you with it. You get to sort of say, oh, I know these tools now. I can use them on my own. So we try to really empower couples and definitely to help practitioners, coaches, therapists, anybody working with couples to help their couples through those triggered moments and also help them deepen security and attachment and individuation in their relationships.
And of course, you get lots of demonstrations, both from Celeste and myself, working with couples throughout this whole roadmap that we are teaching. So as a couple, and if you're not a couple as well, you will get to sit in front of us and work on the things that you are working on in your relationship. Yeah. So maybe I do want to say who is it for in terms of practitioners, who are the practitioners who can benefit from it. So this is really focused for people who want to do couples work. If you are a Somatica coach and you want to, and you did the core training and you want to enhance your tools so you'll be able to reach out to couples and support them, it is really essential to take this training multiple times. If you're a therapist and you got schooled in a regular therapy environment, you probably did not learn much about sex. So this is a way to really learn how to work with couples around sexuality and expand your ability and your reach to couples and support them around sexual issues. And if you are any other kind of coach that want to bring more couples into your practice, this is a very foundational and important training to take. It is experiential. While we are online, we are very able to do it experientially, and you're going to practice every step of the way working with couples.
Yes, and if you're an individual and you haven't yet taken the Somatica training, and you're not a coach and you don't have a couple, you might want to join us in the core training. And we're going to be doing a lot of webinars around that. There's tons of information on somaticainstitute.com, but that's a place to learn all about how to work with your own attachment and triggers and desires, so that when you are in a relationship or when you're dating, you're just much more empowered and clear about who you are and what you want, and you can take that out into the world. Okay, do we get to answer more questions now?
Yes, just like the dates are on the website, Somatica Institute, and also on Celeste and Danielle, if you're a couple, it's called a couples retreat, and we will follow up this webinar with an email letting you know about that.
And this is being recorded, and we will have an edited version up on our YouTube channel. And we have tons of other webinars that we've done that are up there now already. So that should be up in the next week or so. And we usually send it out in one of the next newsletters if you want to keep your eye out for that. So we have a question. All of these conversations are so much harder during COVID. Yes, they are so intense right now. When my partner and I cannot be physical at this time, and we're both struggling with other issues of the circumstance, are we doomed, or can we work it out? It feels like there's no positive or fun experiences to balance the challenges right now. I feel you, and I feel like it's so much harder because when we have those positive, fun, sexy experiences, those help us be much more resilient through the times that are more challenging and painful. I think what you can work on right now is intimacy. And I really want to define intimacy not as like sex or romance or love, but intimacy as like really finding out on a much deeper, more vulnerable level who your partner is and what they want for themselves and what their dreams are. And see if you can maybe pull back so much from like, how does this impact me? Or what does this have to do with me? But to really open up to like, I want to really let this person see who I am from my vulnerability. And I want to see who they are from their vulnerability. And I want us to try to hold that together. I feel like deepening intimacy is something that can make your relationship much more resilient, even in these more challenging times. And I am working with couples who are working with some very, very hard stuff right now, even trying to decide if they want to stay together or break up. And we're really focusing on intimacy, even when they're in different places and can't touch each other or make love to each other.
And we also many times talk about like how using words it's not the same as touch. Nothing feels like touch, but using words is a powerful skill, and you can really create. They did research and they saw that our nervous system actually records, our brain experience very detailed description, and if we take it in and we let it in, it feels like the experience itself. And it's not a new idea, but it's a new idea to embrace, that you can have a wonderful lovemaking experience simultaneously while talking through it and creating seduction this way.
Yeah, so you can have like sexy time without touch.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody says, I'm in the core training right now. Should I wait to finish? No, you can come and take the couples training simultaneously and do that, get that piece right away. So how is this type of attachment connected to which people I'm attracted to? In case my father was alternatively giving me love and cold, and I'm repeatedly attracted to men who adore me, giving me a lot of care and support, but then giving me cold, leaving me because they don't love me enough, but still want me to be around and are scared to leave me. How can I change the pattern of who I am attracted to? Yeah, I think when you get a lot of hot and cold, it does kind of put you in that, and usually ambivalent. If it verged more on an abusive side, can even be what they call disorganized, which is where you have some ambivalent and some avoidant attachment going on there at the same time. I don't know. It's sometimes hard to change who you're attracted to, but what I have found is when you do your own healing work, you deal differently with the way that people behave in relationship. So it's more like coming to a state of relationship empowerment. And we do have a webinar that we did on relationship empowerment. It's what we're teaching in the core training and the couples training all the time, about how to take ownership of yourself and your needs and your feelings, and to sort of check in early on in relationship when I'm sort of putting myself out there in this particular way, is the thing that's coming back to me, is that resonating for me? Is it really what I want? Does it feel good? If not, how do we talk about that, more in those early stages? And I think the clarification of knowing who you are and what you want can help you earlier on in relationship see who's in front of you and whether they're really meeting you in the way that you want to be met.
There's a question here about the typical breakdown of therapists versus couples doing personal growth work in the training. Many of the people that are couples that come into the training are also many times people that come from this field. Sometimes it's a practitioner that bring their partner in a way to kind of work on their things while also knowing tools. So it's very, and couples that join us are couples that are have done a lot of work in the field usually. So we think, or at least some work in the field. So it is very much targeted to professionals, with couples getting the benefit of learning the breakdown and the roadmap, as well as professionals get the real amazing benefit of working with real couples and seeing what it feels in real relationship, and not so it's balanced. I don't know, it depends every year, but we have a good amount of couples in the training, and it's amazing. This is like works amazingly well for everyone.
Any recommendations for moments when both partners feel triggered, anxious at the same time, and have different needs to calm down, one needing physical reassurance while the other needs space? If at all possible, I suggest turn taking. Like sometimes you do a physical thing, or sometimes you do space, or sometimes you do like, okay, I'm going to give you a big warm hug right now, and then I'm going to take a walk. Like you do a little bit of each that kind of helps. Or you say like, I'm not leaving you. You really matter to me. I just need to take a little time right now to myself, so that you're always calming both sides of the spectrum. Or okay, let's do cuddles now, and then next time let's take a break from each other, so it feels like you're both being attended to.
Yes, so there's a great question here. My partner comes from a conservative Catholic background and has what I believe to be shame around enjoying sex. I love this idea of deshamify her inner needs and wants, but haven't had much success here. Any tips? So as someone who grew up with a lot of shame, I can tell you a few things about it. One is that it takes a lot of time to like cross the shame barrier for someone who is struggling with shame. Like you can tell them a lot of loving things and they won't be able to register it. Mostly because you need to be together. It's kind of like, like what comes first, the chicken or the egg? Like you need a little bit of deshamifying practices to be able to start hearing positive feedback coming through. What is, and it is very common that the people who experience shame, and many times women that experience shame around sexuality feel like they don't believe their partners. They think like, oh, just saying it. I never thought of, I think it's a funny thing to say it. I many times used to say it too. It's like, oh, they're saying it. It's like, why would they just say it? Oh, to get in my pants. Like, well, what's wrong with that? It's like a circular answer, right? But I think many times what we find is that's where coming to a big training really helpful, because then you get this experience of deshamifying with multiple people, and you start to see yourself with multiple mirrors, and that really helps deshamify. And then your ability to come through will be much, like more profound in that way.
Somebody asked, do we offer CEUs for therapists for the training? And the answer is yes, we are approved to offer CEUs. So, and therapists have really given us fabulous feedback on the couples training in terms of helping them, especially with the erotic side and understanding people's desires and bridging desires, dealing with differences. Any tips for someone who has anxious wave feelings that manifest as avoidant island behavior, which can make it difficult to identify needs and desires? Well, I don't know exactly who you're talking about, but I know that there were times when I was less conscious that I would, in my waviness, be like, I just need some time by myself, but I never meant it. I always, when I would go into my room and I would cry really loud, hoping that the other person was going to come in. So if you know your person to be a wave, they probably don't actually need time to themselves. I think you want to really question that. And maybe even like when they say, I need some time to myself, like try to hug them. And if then they actually like say, no, don't, then you can, okay, sorry. But
only an island would think that someone needs time for themselves. It's just like, it's really hard. And I do want to acknowledge how hard it is to be and put yourself in the other person's shoes and really understand their experience. It's actually impossible. We can only just practice imagining what would it be like and spend a lot of time imagining their upbringing and how they, like the messages they got in order to try and empathize, but you really need to have like a very clear desire to try and understand what the other person is in order to understand it.
Somebody says, can anyone do this training and become a coach, or do you need more experience? We have definitely had people come into the core training and the certification process that happens after the core training who are in a career change, have not done anything around coaching before and not studied, sort of like human behavior, needs, feelings, all of that. And so it's a very thorough training, and we prepare people to be coaches who have not done coaching before. Suggestions for ambivalent styles to get out of abandonment when triggered, specifically in relationship breakups. Oh, I mean, I'm so with you. I'm in a breakup right now, and it just feels so painful. And, it's funny. I mean, he loves me, but for other reasons, he needs to leave. So it doesn't trigger my abandonment quite so hard, but I still feel empty, and I need lots of love from my friends, and I need hugs, and I need to talk about how sad I am. I need to cry. So I feel like it is kind of like grieving and not trying to hold it back, not trying to stop yourself from feeling those feelings, and to have somebody who you can talk to about feeling abandoned, maybe somebody else who also has abandonment trauma, or some other helper like a coach. I'm curious if you see different trends in lesbian relationships with attachment than in hetero couples, and how you see address differences in hetero homosexual relationships, if any. I think there are tendencies because there's gender training in our society. So I do feel like there's probably some percentage more of ambivalent women and some percentage more of avoidant men, just because there's so much training around independence for men and taking care of yourself, and there's more training for women around like taking care of others. And but so sometimes that will mean that if two women get together, they might be doing more of the the attachment stuff, and if two men get together, they might be doing more of the independent stuff. But those are just trends. I think really people are people, and what you need is good tools to strike the right balance. And it doesn't matter what genders are in front of me. When I'm working with a couple, I'm just like, who is this person in front of me? Like, what do they really need for themselves and want for themselves? And how can I help their partner understand and translate that in a different way than has been happening before, where it hasn't been well understood. But yeah, I mean, I think there are trends depending on gender and stuff like that.
Celeste, love people sending you love and support.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yes, we have a couple more minutes. Want to take a couple more questions?
Sure.
Yeah.
I tend to guilt myself after making mistakes, like it's my fault or I am bad. Any tips on how to get out of guilt when triggers appear? I just always think about my little girl in those situations. I used to kind of have a much stronger critical voice than I have now. Now I'm like Miss Gentleness, because what I started to realize was that little girl or boy inside of you, or person, if you are non-gendered, inside of you does not need to be treated that way anymore. Like, doesn't need to be told they're bad and they're messing everything up. They need to be told they're doing their best and they're doing a good enough job, and that they're okay, and what they need and feel is fine. So sometimes those will be the first things that you say to yourself, the critical ones, but I just suggest you always follow them up with the sweet ones, the kind ones, the gentle ones, to try to at least bring in another voice And then maybe eventually that other voice will speak more loudly from the start.
There's a wonderful question here about how we help couples in long-term relationship to go through and past the resentment, and that is a big work that we're doing, as well as teaching in the couples training how to help people go through this resentment. It is a lot of listening, a lot of empathizing, a lot of really seeing what these two people in the relationship experienced and didn't speak to yet. So there's a lot of empathy and holding each other as they go through the painful experiences they had together and the resentment they had together, and learning to listen to each other is the way. Empathy is the path of love.
And I think we have two questions that sort of have a similar flavor to them, about kind of what can you help us with the distinction between saying I'm not leaving you and making a statement that we're going to stay together in the near future, and one person saying I think I scared my partner away by saying I feel very committed to you. I think this tension between like now and forever is a big tension in relationships. And it's something that it's really important to talk through with your partner and have language around and kind of understand what your agreements are. I know, I end up with a lot of couples who made many years ago some kind of a marriage contract that said forever, no matter what. And then they're sort of like, but I'm miserable. Is that still a no matter what? And so I do feel like, for people to understand that you're saying like, I want to be with you and I want to be true to myself. And my emphasis is on like, if you have an attachment relationship with someone, why not say, I want to have this attachment relationship with you forever, but I'm not sure what the best configuration will be for that forever. So maybe we will be lovers and partners. Maybe we'll be partners, but not lovers. Maybe we'll be friends. But I do want to be in your life forever. I do feel like our template for that in our society is so much like, either you're my romantic partner and we give everything to each other, or you're nothing and you need to be across the universe from me. And that's a very, very painful, sad state of affairs that I want to do everything to fix. Because I have seen and I've experienced attachment relationships transform from one structure to another and still be deeply fulfilling and loving and important and supportive. So I'm hoping to change the lens around that, but I know that, that there's a long way to go.
As well as last question we're going to answer is like, what happened if you felt betrayed or cheated on? There is a way back. If two people it's not immediate. There's a lot of anger. There's a lot of pain. There's many times even blaming happening, but working with a good support person can really help you go through a place of understanding and compassion and seeing where the hurt is, and for the hurt people to be able to share their hurt, and for the hurting person to be able to hold them while they share it, and in a non-defensive way, as well as really being able to see each other, because those things don't happen in a void. Those things happen in a system, in a relationship, and seeing everyone's contribution to the experience is very important. And people, I have clients that went through it and came on the other side feeling more connection. Even if they decide to shift their relationship to something else, it does create more healing and forgiveness and wholesomeness to each person individually as well. Of course, if they stay together, it's impossible to stay together without processing something like that deeply. Well, it is possible to stay together, but it's not going to be fulfilling. So thank you all very much.
Thank you so much. We hope we'll see more of you, and hope you'll join us in one of our trainings if you have the time, and keep coming to the webinars.
Yes, and subscribe here if you see us on YouTube, and we can't wait to see more of you.